On to our fourth speaker of the day. We'll be joined shortly by Chiara Piccolo from Otrium. Chiara is head of product B2C. She is a bona fide product enthusiast with a strong passion for customer experience and innovation, with areas of expertise ranging from retail, omnichannel, e-commerce, fashion, and luxury. Chiara is truly an industry multi-hyphenate and has a really unique point of view. So she'll be talking us shortly through how to build a smarter fashion industry through data, technology, and personalization. Welcome, Chiara.
Hi, everyone. Think you can hear me now, yes? Yeah. I'll share my screen. So very excited to be here today. I'm Chiara. I'm head of consumer products at Otrium, the online fashion outlet marketplace. And today we're gonna look at how Otrium is building a smarter fashion industry, leveraging on technology, on data, and on personalization, of course. But before we go into that, I thought of kicking off with a quick clip. Great. So as you probably saw from the video, we at Otrium love fashion. And if there is another thing that we love, that's technology. We think that bringing together fashion and technology is the way of creating a smarter fashion industry and a fashion industry where waste is reduced. We are an online platform, an online marketplace that was born from a real problem within the industry, that is the problem of excess inventory. Our co-founders, Maximilian, actually had founded a sweaters brand. So they, back in 2015, after having created a couple of collections, had an actual fashion problem, which was we've created a collection, we are at end of season, and we haven't sold the whole thing. So we are left with stock, which is still great stock, very fashionable, but these products haven't found an owner yet. So they started looking around at the typical solutions within the industry. So the physical outlet, the flash sales, the selling to stock buyers in bulk. And they saw a big opportunity there. They saw that using these typical solutions didn't really give the dignity to those unsold pieces. And on the other hand, it didn't give the brands themselves a return on the investment they made on producing them. So they thought, okay, why not revolutionizing and digitalizing the typical offline outlets, the outlet village, and make an opportunity out of it. We are 6 years into the journey. We've come a long way. We have more than 300 brand partners on board. We're scaling globally with a Series C that we closed earlier this year. And earlier this year as well, we entered the US market. So there is a lot of momentum within Otrium and a lot of possibilities. But zooming in on how we do it. So as you saw from the video, we have a very strong and clear purpose, which is all clothing should be worn. And that's a bit a revolution within the fashion industry. The fashion industry is used to trends. It's used to having collections that are really trendy right now and then go out of fashion. And we actually think we can change it and we can make an impact, and we can use technology to make sure that on one hand, all clothing produced is worn, so all clothing produced is reaching the right owner. And on the other, that the future collections don't necessarily need to be based on guesswork and assumptions, but they can be based on data and information to reduce waste also in the longer term. So we're gonna look at how we are making a change within the industry across the whole range. So from the consumer point of view, how we are using personalization to create that smart match between a piece of unsold inventory and a consumer. On the brand side, we're going to talk about data-made fashion and how it differs from what the industry is used to. And when it comes to supply and operations, so our internal processes, there is also a great chance for technology to play a role and help us making sure all clothing is worn. We are going to start from personalization. Personalization, of course, is a very used word within not only the fashion industry, but all the industries by now. And we see that not that much as an end goal, but as a mean to create that smart match between products that have not been sold in the previous seasons and customers, so people that are potentially interested in them and in purchasing these pieces, wearing them and loving them over and over again. The challenge here is quite clear. I think everyone within this virtual room has on a daily basis this thought of being bombarded by multiple emails of new brands and new collections and new offers, and everything becomes quite overwhelming. And even when we zoom into Otrium, so on our platform itself, what we see is the more we grow, the more brand partners come on board, the more it becomes hard for the consumer to find what they're looking for. There is too much choice, there is really too much to navigate. So the ultimate risk is that we actually don't achieve the purpose of all clothing should be worn because the consumer simply gives up. Here's where personalization actually can play a role. Personalization meaning creating that match. You can almost think of it as if you are a dating app for fashion, where our purpose is, okay, let's make sure this piece of clothing, this still very fashionable and great quality piece of clothing can find an owner, and that the consumer coming on our app on a daily basis is something that is relevant for them, that is exciting, interesting, and that we really maximize that match potential. When it comes to brands, the challenge is slightly different. And the challenge actually is related to the fundamentals of the fashion industry itself. So back in the days, at the very inception of fashion, each piece was tailor-made. So as a consumer, you would go to a tailor, you would have measurements taken, your sizes, your requests taken, and the piece would be created for you. So a one-off. Of course, the industry has changed, it has evolved, industrialization has come into play as well, and mass production has become the norm. And mass production means assumptions and guessworks and forecasts and trying to understand how much demand will there be for this piece or this collection, which is of course not that much of a science. It's more assumptions and trying to make it work, with the risk again that the production is too much, and at the end of the season there is inventory that has stayed on the shelves and stayed in the warehouse and hasn't found a home. That is true, of course, also for made for outlets, and it's a general problem that is for us a big challenge to solve. Our solution to this problem within the industry is using data. And of course, data, another buzzword, another word that everyone uses, but something in this case can be a game changer. When we talk about data-based fashion, it risks sounding a bit boring, like as if we're taking the creativity out of it. And we're definitely not. We're looking at it more as data informing decisions and data allowing us to partner with the brands and giving them the insights to understand what is actually in demand, what is the customers loved, what is the customer purchase, what are the characteristics of the pieces that have the highest chance to actually still be in demand in the next season. So we're not talking about mass production anymore. We're not talking about fast fashion. We're talking about bringing back into the collection, into the production, the pieces that customers have loved and will love again. And then when it comes to supply and operations, of course, when you have a strong purpose, like, well, clothing should be worn, you have to live it to the fullest, meaning that we follow this principle also when it comes to our internal operations, our warehouse, or all our internal supply processes. As an outlet, of course, you can imagine that everything that is end of season not always comes with all the information or in its best shape. These are pieces of clothes that have stayed, that have been left on the shelf of a store or at the back of the warehouse. So they might be creased, they might be missing labels, or even the imagery that comes with it, the information that comes with it, it's not really optimized. So again, the big red flag, these products risk not having the best chance to find an owner. Here, technology comes in two forms. On one hand, there is the the physical, the machinery and everything that it takes to give the best second chance to a product, the refurbishment of it, the ironing of it. On the other, it comes at another buzzword, the AI side of things, where we actually, through artificial intelligence, can maximize the potential of imagery. We can enrich product information. We can use tags and attributes to make sure that that product can be filtered on, it can be searched on, and basically can be found, can be shown and surfaced to the right customer again. So summarizing, we do see a very, very big opportunity. And within the fashion industry, the opportunity is that 12% of fashion, so all the clothing produced on a season-by-season basis and on a year-by-year basis stays unsold. And the risk that comes with it is that this product ends up in landfill, but it also, together with it, all the creativity, the effort, the hard work that went into producing it ends into landfill as well. So at Otrium, when we talk about what's next for fashion, we see a future where all clothing is worn and where technology helps us across the board to make this purpose come to life. And that's it. Eager to hear any question.
Okay, Chiara, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, wonderful chat. Super excited to talk to you about this. So my first question for you is, I think consumers, as you know, are kind of creatures of habit, right? So how do you, as Otrium, or how do brands really help change behavior? Like when it comes down to, knowing about some of the things that are going on with the ills of the fashion industry and the impact it's having on the climate, for instance, how do you actually help to kind of like through data even, or through marketing potentially, like get people to Otrium to kind of start to realize there's other options out there and kind of make a change at their point of purchase?
Well, there is definitely a piece of education. I think when you first hear unsold inventory, you think, okay, this must be something that is not really cool anymore, and that it's not appealing to me. You will be amazed, and I think like that's what I see on a daily basis on Otrium. It's the amount of products that are like of great quality, that are still like great pieces, but also that can allow you to express your individuality, right? Like there is a lot, of course, fashion is about trend and it's about being in sync with the season, but we see more and more, especially when it comes to like the newest generations, that people just want to express themselves. And that doesn't always mean following the latest trends, but also means, finding what you like. It doesn't matter if it's this season or the last. And then there is a lot about that it comes together with the education of the consumer, but also about transparency. We are internally very excited when it comes to, show our impact, embracing the fact that there is a lot to do, like fashion and education around what comes next for fashion and how we can make an impact on the environment. I mean, it's a topic that is, of course, really on any stage at the moment. But we try also to be very transparent in telling the customer, even within our assortment, there are products that are more conscious than others. Even within our shipping options, some options are more conscious than others. So we try to be really transparent and try to educate the consumer, give them the choice. And we're already seeing more and more people embracing even things like a simple filter to find the most conscious products. We've seen it really taking off over the last month. So we see definitely there is an appetite, but we play a role also within the education and transparency piece as well.
Absolutely. And I think something else I'm wondering about as well is, you kind of mentioned like the seasonality, and it kind of goes in with, people being, creatures of habit, right? This idea of seasonality is so entrenched in us as consumers to be on trend every season and to buy something new. And the education piece is such a big part of that. But how do you kind of break, maybe stigma is too hard of a word, but how do you break sort of this feeling or the perception that outlet clothes, right, are sort of not sexy or appealing? Like, what role does content play, or what role does styling play? Or also data as well. But I'm curious to see maybe more in terms of marketing, how you kind of, make that an appealing and sexy proposition to people as well.
Definitely, like that is a stigma. I would use the word, but it's also, as anything, a bit for us like a challenge we like to play with. We definitely on the marketing side, there is a lot going on with really showing. Like, I think you have to show it. Like when you imagine, when you think of outlet, you think of something that is like gray and like dusty and old. But then when you show what you can do with it, it's quite of an interesting thing. So you have to be very visual. You have to be very jumping on the trends and the seasonality as well, but showing that it doesn't necessarily, like fall clothing or cozy up for winter doesn't necessarily mean buy something that is from this season. It can also mean find something from the previous season that is still very in great quality, that is still meant to be worn. And it actually never goes out of season. That's also something quite interesting, showing how things don't necessarily need to have a season, but can be worn over and over again this winter, the next, and in 5 years as well.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that, again, using the word trend probably isn't correct for that, but I think people really now, consumers are really craving kind of having an impact at purchase, right? They don't just want to buy something great. They want to actually do something with their dollar or their euro or whatever currency they're using. And so, how do you kind of continue to take hold of that narrative and really kind of be a leader in the space as Otrium, and really, kind of create that narrative that this is something here to stay, right? That this idea of climate change and the impact that you can have. And really, the question is, how do you really empower people to feel like they're part of a movement?
Well, this is quite interesting because, of course, you're asking about the consumer, but we are doing it also with the brand. So we try to do it across the whole board. What we come across with is we want to be a partner to the brands to make a change, and this allows the brands to stay with us and the consumers to be attracted in the first place. But what we also see, because we of course get a lot of customer feedback, and we have a lot of like users that are really crazy about Otrium, and what we see is that they the narrative about all clothing should be worn and the story of Otrium itself comes across quite clearly. And once people are on board, if maybe at the beginning they come on board because it's great discounts and it's still great pieces, and with more than 300 designers, now it becomes really appealing. Then they keep coming back, and not that much for just the discount, but also because they've learned that they've selected a piece that could go burned or into landfill, and that they've enjoyed the experience. The experience, yeah, it's an outlet, but it's a premium experience still. So it just feels right. And they come back over and over. And we have these, super users that become great advocates for the brand. So there we also think the community plays at the moment and will play a great role, because it becomes a movement where more people within this community that we have become advocates and then bring more people on board. So I think that the future of that will really be having, like, enlarging the community and strengthening over and over again.
Absolutely. Well, incredibly excited to see what's in store for Otrium in the near future. And it was great speaking with you, Chiara. Thank you again so much for a wonderful chat, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks.